When you're up in the higher dimensions, you have full understanding of what you're experiencing. When you come back down into this reality and you try to speak in this third dimension with a brain and a mouth and two eyes, which is made for this reality, it's a very difficult thing. The reason there's gaps, these bands spin at different, some spin that way, some spin that way, depending on the expression required by those universes themselves, the other universes. And there's gaps because some are waiting to be formed. Okay? Creation is big. And in there we call that the grand central universe. So life is far greater and far more wondrous than you ever first thought or imagined. It's huge. And we are part of something that is so great. When you look out there and you look at that cosmos at how big it is, and you think that's huge, and you feel there's no end to that, and it just goes on and on and on. And you know, once you get a peek outside this universe, then you really, wow, puts things into perspective for you. This is the grand myth. We're not going from this reality in a few years, we're going to the golden age. We'll be total gods in creation. We'll just be in kindergarten with all this, okay? Because the House of Christ has quite a big hierarchical structure in it, okay? So we'll be entering at the bottom of that structure basically, and then learning how to utilise the energy of waveform to create. We'll become creators ourselves in this new, which I'll explain later, the kind of devices we'll be using and the way we'll be living. And so once you go through the ranks and you work your way up through all the dimensional levels, eventually, okay, we will be then given the opportunity to go outside magenta and begin our own universe and become a god in our own right. And that's what Thoth is already doing. Thoth had to come back inside. The intent of Thoth had to come back from outside in his own universe, because he's the architect of this universe, Lucifer. Thoth is Lucifer, by the way, okay? And he's got his own other universe happening outside, okay, in the same waveform format as this one. And he's come back in here now at this time and is incarnated here on the planet to help through this process. Okay, so eventually we will graduate through all the dimensional levels of the Christ, and we'll come out the top, pop out the top, and we'll have our own universe in creation, and we'll be our own God. That's the grand plan of creation. The whole purpose of this universe and the creation of these lower dimensional levels, we've plunged down into this reality here, and what we say about the grand plan of creation was Lucifer holds the white light of knowledge, and so therefore he's got the knowledge on how to build, how to manifest things into physical being, into reality with that physical knowledge. Like you have a suburb, and then you have people that come in and they build the infrastructure, they build the roads and the houses and the sewerage and what have you, and then the people move in and occupy that reality, that realm. It's the same. Lucifer, with his or her minions, it's genderless, came down into these lower frequencies, and with the help of what's called the seraphim angels, seraphic angels, which are the serpentine energy of angels, started manifesting life. The first forms of life that was manifested in these lower levels of reality were like insect in nature. They were just mechanical beings that just did. They didn't have much thought. Vegetated, no thought basically. They're just totally reactive on pretty much a physical, like a chemical reactive type of instinct. And they evolved over time, and some of the races of the insects became consciously aware, and then they moved on. And then after that they thought, well, we need a new form of life. We need these guys work in colonies, not much, they're not really able to think for themselves. So what happened was, the next expression of life that was created was the serpent races. And I'm not going to use time frames because time is really of no relevance. I can't give you exact years, it's just not you don't have numbers big enough. Trillions of years ago. Okay, it was the insects. Billions of years ago was the serpents. That's where I'll leave it. And the serpents came down, and with that energy of the white light of physical knowledge, they were able to go throughout these lower frequencies of realities, fourth dimension down to the third dimension, and build and create. And they had no one to go up against them, so they totally dominated and ruled, and they become very arrogant and very violent and very evil because they had no point of reference basically. They were just given free rein, and they were able to do whatever they wanted to do, and that's the way they were. And they know exactly what I'm saying because they're here with me today. And there is, they know this needs to be said. And they were really quite, brutal. And it took a while before God said, right, now I wish to have in this lower void, and that's why it's known as the void, we bring in the energy now of the white light, another set of beings. No one known as the bird tribes. And the serpents started gathering around an area known as Alpha Draconis. And the reason for that is star systems, like planets are beings, you're a being, and planetary body is a being. Star systems are beings too. Okay, our galaxy is a being. We're all, it's different beings and broken down in different aspects. And so the being that played the role of Alpha Draconis started attracting life, like you as a being attracts certain cultures of bacteria, certain cultures of viruses upon your own body, and they are all life forms, and you are a multicultural universe unto yourself. So it's just a fractal of the greater. So what I'm explaining is nothing crazy or it's just an understanding of a higher level of understanding there. And so they started gathering because the energies were right in Alpha Draconis for all these beings together. And then once the bird tribes came in, they started gathering around a place called Lyra, which is specifically around Vegan. That's where the Federation started a long time ago with its headquarters there. And after they sort of had differences for a very, very long time, down the track, two other beings came into formation, and they were, and I know the names of these beings, they were two star systems, and one of the beings is called Osiris. Osiris is the entire Orion star league. That's who that is. The whole Orion system is one being known as Osiris, and then another system came into play was Pleiades. I don't know the name of that being as yet. And there was another star, third one that came into being was Sirius, and that is the being we know as Isis, or Isis. Now these beings, because they operate on a higher level, they have the ability to manifest into embodiment here in this plane. Okay? That's why they were around at the early times of Egypt. They played a role as well. So they not only have played a role on a level of being a star system, they have also come here and experienced the reality here as well on an individual basis to gather that experience as well. Isis, we call her, on Sirius we know her as Isis, which means she lives. That's what that represents. And that's the energy of the Mother Goddess, the feminine aspect of God. She lives, and she is. And that's a very important thing to know because, I'll get to that in a moment.